So, this is the Eastern Cape, and I've been so privileged to have been brought up in this area. This is my backyard when I was a youngster. And Dad started this game reserve called Shamwari almost 30 years ago now. And, I schooled just over these hills here, and the folks lived in Port Elizabeth, and this was where we met for weekends. And then as I turned sort of 18, 19, I got more into conservation and ultimately became a game ranger, admittedly a really rubbish one. And a lot of fun doing that because so many people were drawn to this area, and then you take them out on safari and you show them wildlife and they're completely mesmerized, and I loved that. I got a real kick out of that. But then suddenly you fast forward to 2010 and something really happened which just, it was a trigger point for me, and took me and elevated me into another world of conservation. Because one evening we were sitting around having a barbecue at this very place, and we suddenly got a call over the radio that a rhino had been poached, and we thought, oh God, here we go, it's arrived, and it had been happening all over Southern Africa, the northern parts of Southern Africa, but suddenly it had arrived down the Eastern Cape, and it was such a trigger point for us. And suddenly we were on high alert, and everything became a reality, and it didn't stop. I mean, we're very fortunate down in the Eastern Cape because we have very few poaching incidences, but believe me, there's a war taking place on the borders of South Africa. And it's tragic, and we're losing, almost 3 rhino a day in South Africa. And it's not just the rhino, I mean, it's across Africa and other parts of the world too. So that trigger point for me has really elevated me into this position where I'm getting more and more entrenched in this, and I want to tell the stories of these unsung heroes that are fighting the battle. And the second trigger point for me was a little bit later, and I was on my brother-in-law's farm, and we got another call, and it was just as horrific as you can imagine. I mean, we came across this female who had been shot in the early hours of the morning, horn hacked off, and we had to then cut her open to try and find the bullet, because you can trace the bullet to the weapon that was used, and so your forensic experts get involved in it. But upon doing that, we discovered that she was pregnant. And you look at these pictures and you see this little calf, unborn calf, lying alongside her, and I tell you, that hits home properly. It was really an awful thing to see.
It hits home. I sit in the UK, kind of in an ivory tower, and we see all the footage and social media and video and everything else. It's tough. This little guy hits home big time. We didn't realise she was pregnant until we got stuck in out this. That really hit home because I'm a dad too, and it's really tough when you see this little figure, the next generation. She's a little female too, so really sad.
And the sadness today is, we've all got fatigue over the horrors that we see on social media platforms, and I urge you not to. I think this rhino thing has escalated out of control, and if we look what's happened in the Far East, and you look at the region as a whole, there's a middle class that's emerged in that part of the world, and they're after, like we are as Westerners, we're all after aspirational items like Porsches, Land Rovers, Louis Vuitton handbags, you name it. And in China it's the same, and Vietnam and those other regions. And of course, what's really sad is the rhino horn just happens to be on their list of aspirational goods. And it's through no fault of theirs, it's just how it is, and there's a belief that it's got medicinal uses that they can use it for, it's ornamental and aspirational and everything else. And so we need to educate, and I think that's something that we are very busy with as an organization, and certainly in my list of things to do is to try and educate and tell stories about how this shouldn't be happening, and we'll do that in the best, most responsible way, and try and make a difference. Obviously, it's also about the anti-poaching units fighting the war and supporting them and elevating them. But there's a lot that I want to sort of delve into to properly understand the issues surrounding this. So please join me on this journey, and share, guys. I really would appreciate it. Thank you.